What's good here? It's Russell King here. And today we're going to be discussing the recent episode of Friday Night Smackdown. We're going to get straight into it. The first match that starts off with is LA Knight versus AJ Styles. This is determined who will face Cody Rhodes at Backlash. This was a solid match, decent match. This was somewhat similar to a WrestleMania match. The match starts off with a good back and forth. Both opponents get outside the ring. LA Knight, of course, does his head slam on the announce table. Typically, I don't like when LA Knight does that move because typically he does it way too many times. But this match, he didn't do it that much. He only did it like 6 or 7 times because typically it's the crowd that makes me get annoyed by that move because the crowd constantly says yeah, yeah after every time he does it, after every move. But he only did like 6 or 7 times. Typically he does it like 20 to 30, but he didn't do it as much this match. Yeah, he got on the announce table, hit him with a couple head slams on the announce table. Get back. Then I think it went to commercial break soon after that. Then we got a moment where I think AJ Styles, LA Knight ends up into each other at the same time. That was a very good sequence right there. We got LA Knight does his signature suplex when the opponent is on the top rope. He jumps on the top rope and then suplexed him off the top rope. But then we get to the ending part of the match where AJ Styles ends up poking LA Knight in the eyes. Yeah, he ends up poking LA Knight in the eyes. He did like a head, like a stunt. He ended up yanking LA Knight's head onto the ropes. LA Knight, of course, is in pain through the eyes and the neck. Since he poked him in the eye, the ref was distracted. The ref didn't see it. AJ Styles hits his phenomenal forearm for the win, picks up the victory, and he will be the one that will be facing Cody Rhodes at Backlash. This was a solid match, but it was expected, of course. AJ Styles was going to win. No way they was going to put one of their popular baby faces in LA Knight against their biggest babyface in Cody Rhodes in his first title defense. Just doesn't make sense. Got to give AJ the win, who was a heel. Give him heel heat for facing Cody Rhodes, who is the biggest babyface in the company. It only made sense. Next up, we got Solo Sikoa. He pulls up in a truck. And he pulls up in a suit jacket, which was very weird. He had a suit jacket and a chain on, which was very weird because, Solo always wears, the typical tank top with jeans, with some boots on. So it was very weird seeing him. But I actually like the look they gave Solo. I like Solo wearing, the suit jacket with the chain. He looked fresh. I actually like this. He pulls up and then Solo ends up talking to Paul Heyman and said that meet the newest member of the bloodline, my MFT, Tama Tonga. He ends up hugging him. Now, I don't know what MFT means. You guys let me know what that means. He said it multiple times in the show, but I don't know what that means, but you guys let me know. After he hugs Tama Tonga, he asks Paul Heyman, is KO here? He didn't respond. He asks him again. Paul Heyman doesn't know, but he says, I assume he is. He has to be. He has to be on the show since he is a SmackDown guy. Solo ends up asking him to bring him to KO. That was the end of that segment there. They're still showing Solo Sikoa as that dominant guy, him being, the new leader of the bloodline. I'm very interested to see how long they're going to go with this and how much longer they're going to go until eventually Roman comes back. I know Roman is supposed to be scheduled around SummerSlam, but I don't know if he's going to show up sooner, but I know he is scheduled around there. But next up, we got the new tag team titles. New tag team titles end up being revealed for A-Town Down Under, the tag team of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. This is a solid segment. Those belts, going to be honest, way better than the Raw tag team belts. And I'm a fan of the Raw tag team belts, but the SmackDown belts are way better. They're a bit nostalgic. They look like the old tag team belts during the Ruthless Aggression era. They look like those. Really like these belts. Really like the design. They also kind of reminds me of the Intercontinental Championship. It kind of reminds me of the current Intercontinental Championship. Really love this design. Really good. But Triple H, Nick Aldis had their typical promo, kind of similar to what Adam Pearce and Triple H did last week. They introduced A-Town Down Under. They unveiled the belts. Triple H tries to shake Austin Theory and Grayson Waller's hand. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller kind of did a fake and ends up shaking each other's hands first. Then Nick Aldis approaches them and Nick Aldis didn't like that, and he ends up saying that if you disrespect him again, I would do a real magic trick and make a clown down under disappear permanently. Really thought that comeback was very good. And then Nick Aldis ends up announcing the fatal four-way tag team match. Then next up, that ends up transitioning into the fatal four-way tag team match to be the number one contender for Austin Theory and Grayson Waller tag team titles. This was this, so we're gonna move on to the next match. We got the fatal four-way tag team number one contenders match between the Street Profits, New Catch Republic, Authors of Pain, and Legado del Fantasma. This was a very great match, really great match. This felt like a PLE match. I will say, I typically don't like this match type because, in my opinion, it's too wild and chaotic, and the rules to me are just dumb. Because I don't think it's a good idea for other teams to tag themselves in uh, on teams that are not theirs. Like, I don't think that's right. And then there's times where the opponents would tag in the other team to give them a chance to win the match. I don't understand. And to me personally, now to be fair, it could be me not paying attention as much, but a lot of times I feel like that the people who win the match are not the ones that are tagged in a lot of times. Or, but to be fair, that could be me not paying attention. But it just gets a little too chaotic and a little hard to like keep up with everything, because it's like you could tag in yourself on someone that's not even your tag partner. I don't think that's right, but that's just me. You guys let me know. But this match starts off with Montez Ford, Tyler Bate having a good back and forth with rest holds and pinfalls going back and forth. Then Humberto ends up tagging himself in on Tyler Bate. He ends up knocking Tyler Bate down. Then Tyler Bate down, and then Montez Ford and Humberto has a quick back and forth. I think it went to commercial or something like that. And then Humberto ends up tagging Angel. And Angel, no, it didn't go to commercial. Montez Ford goes for a suicide dive, if I'm not mistaken. But ends up missing. Humberto tags Angel in, and then Angel ends up hitting Montez with a running knee onto like the ring apron between the ropes. I thought that was good. Then it went to commercial, if I'm not mistaken. Then it pops back up. Pete Dunne gets tagged in. Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne starts jumping Authors of Pain. Then we got a sequence where Humberto comes in, but immediately gets German suplex. Then Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne ends up stopping on his fingers. Then Pete Dunne does a drop kick on Humberto. Angel Garza comes into the ring and then gets suplexed, but Tyler Bate hits him with a clothesline into a suplex by Pete Dunne. Street Profits and Pete Dunne. No. After that, Authors of Pain. One of the Authors of Pain members are in the ring. I don't know who it is. I know their names, but I don't know which one is which. I remember Tyler Bate was trying to pick up one of the members of Authors of Pain. Couldn't pick him up. Then all the tag teams ends up helping him. The Street Profits and I think Legado helped them too. Or it may have just been the Street Profits. The Street Profits and Pete Dunne end up helping Tyler Bate pick up one of the Authors of Pain members. Has him on his shoulders, tries to do his signature spin, but Legado del Fantasma ends up interrupting it. Eventually, the Street Profits ends up getting the upper hand in that sequence. Then later on, it was a sequence where all the tag teams were on the top rope. Every member of the tag team was on the top rope. Authors of Pain ends up slamming Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, and I think Tyler Bate off the top rope. Then after that, it was Angel Garza and Humberto end up throwing Tyler Bate. They was the remaining ones on the top rope onto the rest of the tag team of Authors of Pain and the Street Profits. Yep. Think then after that, Angel Garza ends up doing a drop kick off the top rope. Yeah, off the top rope. And then Humberto goes for a pin, but Pete Dunne ends up interrupting the pin. Then it goes back to commercial. Then we get a sequence where both tag teams start, the Street Profits and I think New Catch Republic. Yeah, New Catch Republic start jumping AOP. Street Profits get the upper hand. Montez Ford ends up doing a top rope blockbuster. Goes for the pin. Pete Dunne ends up breaking the pin. Then we go to the outside. New Catch Republic does a moonsault to the outside to AOP. Then Montez Ford ends up doing a suicide dive. Get back in the ring. Humberto does a clothesline to Tyler Bate. Tags Angel Garza. They did their finisher where Herberto typically throws his opponent in the air and then Angel ends up kicking the opponent midair. That I love that finisher. That is very sick. Um, Herberto then goes to do a suicide dive to prevent Pete Dunne from interrupting the pin, but Montez Ford ends up doing a frog splash onto Angel Garza to break the pin. Then Angelo Dawkins tags himself in, and then the Street Profits hit their signature move. I don't know what their finisher is. They end up hitting some type of maneuver. They pick up the victory, and now they're the number one contenders for the tag team championships on SmackDown. Very interested to see that match. That match should be very great. That match, of course, most likely will happen at Backlash because they don't have many matches announced for Backlash outside of Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. So that should be a great match, and I can't wait for that. That should be a very good match. Next up, we got Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa. Paul Heyman walks up to Solo. He ends up apologizing for not being able to find Kevin Owens. Solo looks a little angry. He walks off. Paul Heyman follows him, ends up saying that I'm not trying to make you mad, but you are making decisions that aren't yours, and those decisions are only supposed to be made by one and only man. Solo interrupts, ends up saying that are you done? Solo is just not having it. He's tired of it. Then they end up doing a great camera shot of the backstage where Solo ends up walking and then walks towards the entrance, and then it does the typical entrance. I really love that. Then we get to the Bloodline promo. Paul Heyman and Solo are in the ring. Paul Heyman starts off the promo. He starts talking about backstage politics. And then as he's talking about backstage politics, the crowd is chanting, "We want Roman." Really love that. Paul Heyman starts getting emotional after the "We want Roman" chant stop. And then Paul Heyman starts saying, as the wise men four, Solo takes the mic. Solo takes the mic, very similar to what he did last week when he took his phone once he was about to mention Roman Reigns. Solo takes the mic, and Solo couldn't get a word in for like a good 30 seconds because he kept on trying to talk, but the crowd just kept getting louder and louder, booing him, getting really good heel heat, which Solo kind of needed. Solo was getting heel heat, but this heel heat is a lot different. I really love what they're doing with Solo. But Solo ends up saying that last week I had to lose a brother in order to find a new one. He introduced Tama Tonga. Then Tama Tonga comes out. But you see Kevin Owens comes out all bloody all over the ground. And Tama Tonga comes up behind him. Tama Tonga is throwing KO around. Then Tama Tonga comes in the ring. Throws up the ones with Solo. Solo looks over Tama Tonga. And it shows that Kevin Owens is running back, trying to fight back. Tama Tonga and Kevin Owens are fighting on the outside, but Solo comes from behind and throws KO to the steel steps. Security's out there trying to break them apart, but they can't. Security has KO, holding KO, but they couldn't maintain Solo, and Solo ends up hitting a Samoan spike to KO. Then Tama Tonga starts constantly attacking KO. Nick Aldis comes out, he's trying to break it up. Then Tama Tonga gets a steel chair, tries to hit KO with the steel chair, but KO, oh no, Nick Aldis, my mistake. Yeah, he tries to hit KO with the steel chair, but Nick Aldis interferes and ends up stopping him. Tama Tonga was trying to kill Kevin Owens in this episode, making him bleed, constantly attacking him. He was just very ruthless, and I really love what they're doing with Tama Tonga, bro. Really love what they're doing. He was trying to murder Kevin Owens, bro. He was trying to murder KO. And speaking of trying to murder him, next up, then after that segment, Nick Aldis ends up pulling Paul Heyman. He ends up like yanking Paul Heyman's arm. He ends up asking him, did you know about this? Paul Heyman is shocked, confused, and upset because there are two cars and one car smashed into the other one. And Nick Aldis ends up saying that one of the cars is Kevin Owens' rental and the other car is Tama Tonga rental car. And Tama Tonga basically ran into KO's car, basically crashed his car into his, trying to murder Kevin Owens. Man, Tama Tonga is on different timing. He is very ruthless, man, and I am loving what they're doing with the Bloodline. But Nick Aldis is very upset. Nick Aldis says that he will not tolerate this savagery. And asks, does Paul Heyman understands? Paul Heyman says yes. And then Nick Aldis says, make the Bloodline understand. And I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna work. But then he ends up saying that because then Nick Aldis ends up saying that because if you don't, the repercussions will be savagery. And then he ends up saying that losing isn't the only thing that has consequences. Really love that. Wonder what they're gonna do. Wonder what they're gonna do because Tamatonga and Solo are not gonna stop most likely, and wonder what those consequences are going to be because Nick Aldis does not play. That's one thing I love about Nick Aldis. He's a general manager that does not play, takes his job very seriously, and he's a guy that you don't want to play with as your general manager. Next up, we got Santos Escobar versus Carlito. Not gonna really go that deep into this match. It wasn't a bad match. It was all right. Um, they're still building up the feud of Santos and Carlito. You know, Carlito's trying to prove that he ain't the one that attacked Dragon Lee. Santos says that he ain't the one that attacked him. You know, they had a good back and forth. Majority of the match was dominated by Carlito, from what I remember. Um, Carlito starts gaining momentum, but Electra Lopez start interfering. She gets on a ring apron. Selena Vega ends up knocking Electra Lopez off the ring apron. She tries to dive onto Electra Lopez, but Electra ends up catching her and slamming her into the barricade. Carlito is distracted. Santos ends up kicking Carlito in between the ropes when Carlito was trying to get back in the ring. Then he throws him into the ring post and then hits the Phantom Driver and wins the match. Santos ends up winning the match. Don't know what's going to happen afterwards because this feud, it's not really that interesting if I'm being honest. I don't know how much longer they're going to push this feud, but to be fair, they're going to push it, of course, after the draft, which we know is next week on SmackDown, so I can't wait for that. So I'm very curious what the draft is going to do. Are they going to stay on SmackDown and go to Raw? But this feud, not really that interested in, to be honest with you. Now it is a slow burning feud, so we'll see what they do. But I'm gonna go to the next segment. Next up, we got a quick segment with Damage Control. They're gonna interview Dakota Kai is basically saying that Io Sky is gonna win her championship back. You know, they're still the most dominant faction in WWE, of course. Then, after she mentions the tag team titles of Asuka and Kairi Sane, Jade Cargill's music pops up, and Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill comes out. The way they did this angle, because they was in a skybox when they was getting interviewed, it looked like Jade Cargill and Bianca was in a different skybox the way they shot it. But then they pan over and they was right next to each other. They was right next to each other in the skybox. So it was very confused how they did the angle. But then they both start arguing. So it looks like Jade and Bianca are going to go after those tag titles because it's not a coincidence that once Dakota Kai mentions the women's tag team titles, Jade and Bianca pop up. That's not a coincidence. So it looks like they're going to go after those titles. And if they do, Jade and Bianca are one of those. They're going to demolish the Kabuki Warriors. The match shouldn't be that long, for being honest. Next up, we got the main event, Bayley and Naomi. This was a very slow paced match, but it picked up towards the end. I will say this was okay at first, but then it started to get really good towards the end. I'm finna mainly get to the ending sequence because, like I said, it didn't really get good towards the end. Naomi goes for a suicide dive on Bayley. Bayley ends up recovering and then does a Bayley to belly onto the announce table. They're about to both get counted out because the ref was counting them out. The ref was like on 7 or 8. But then Tiffany Stratton comes in, interferes, punches Bayley, and the match ends in a disqualification. Tiffany Stratton attacks Bayley and Naomi, puts them both in the ring, and hits the prettiest moonsault ever onto both of them. And that's the end of the SmackDown. And that's the end of your SmackDown. What do you guys think of this show? I thought this was a really good show. I love what they're doing with Solo and the Bloodline, loving him taking charge, him being that new authority figure, him feeling that, him being important again. Because for a while now, Solo was just a guy that was just supposed to be like the muscle, the enforcer, but he was constantly losing. Now they're making him really feel like that enforcer type character again. Loving what they're doing with Tamatonga. I love what they're doing with Paul Heyman, him fearing for his life, because this whole episode, he's basically fearing for his life. Very interested what they're going to do with Tiffany Stratton with her interrupting the match. They could potentially make that into a triple threat match with Naomi, Bayley, and Tiffany Stratton. You know, help Bayley pick up the victory by, protecting Naomi and Tiffany in some way. I really love what they're doing. And then next week we got the draft coming up. Very interested to see who's going to move over to Raw, who's going to move over to SmackDown. But let me know what you guys thought this episode of SmackDown. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.